Being soul aligned in business and life, what does being soul aligned really mean? And what are the signs of being soul aligned? And what are the signs that you're out of alignment? So when I talk about soul alignment, I'm talking about being aligned literally from our soul's essence, being aligned in what we do that is so connected to our soul's mission, our soul's purpose. And in many ways, we're getting more and more, as the more soul aligned we become, we actually are connected to more and more of our spiritual gifts, and we own more of the energy that we're really here to embody. Often maybe gifts and things that we sometimes are not even aware of because we have become so disconnected from them, or we've not been able to harness them properly because of conditioning and programming. So when you are creating a soul aligned business, it's important that you have a good connection with your soul, with yourself, and with your soul. And in many ways, it's also being able to connect with your heart intelligence and then build that connection deep, deep within what I would call your seat of your soul, right? Or the depth of your soul. Now, in many ways, it's often and usually a work in progress. It's not something that just instantly happens. Of course, some people have a clearer connection to their soul for all sorts of reasons, right? But even then, it's, we're all, when we're living a human experience, we all are impacted and influenced by the people around us, the circumstances around us, and the circumstances that we have experienced in life. So things can energetically interfere. And there is common things that themes that I see, and it's obviously my opinion, but as someone that's been a healer for many, many years, studied many modalities, and have, my own certain gifts, there's things that you notice sometimes about clients, students, and people that can cause disconnection. And I've experienced many of these things myself. But one of the biggest things that I believe that can create a lot of disconnection with the soul is when we're so in our head about everything. And the head and the ego is running the show, right? And we are running our business from how we think we need to do it or we must. And I'm going to give you some examples where sometimes it's not as obvious at certain stages of our journey, things that can be running the show that actually stop us and keeps us in misalignment. And one of the first one is actually the need to be liked, the need to be loved, the need to be liked, the need to even be approved of, all these kind of things, right? So if you are in business and you need people to like you, need people to approve of you, need people to respect you, and even expect any of those things, what you're doing is you're putting out a projection of something that it's coming from almost a survival response, because it's a need. It's like almost you're doing it because you want to be liked, you want to be valued, you want to be respected, right? And that can be a slight, just getting that slight shift of moving that can make a tremendous difference. So if you've spent a lot of your life feeling as if no one valued you, no one respected you, or accepted you, any of these kind of things, this is where sometimes even the wounded healer can come in. There's bits of our wounding as a healer. For example, we all come in as the wounded healer because there is our own wounding is often been the catalyst of what has brought us forward into this work, right, or whatever work we're doing. Also, on a human level, none of us are fully healed because we all have either mental, emotional, physical, or even spiritual triggers, things that are keeping us from being completely enlightened and completely in a state of, a natural state of being, right? So when you think about embodying more of who you are, right, it doesn't come from the mind, right? Of course, there's a certain element of having a healthy mind. But one of the things that I noticed very early on in my journey was a lot of teachers who talked a lot about the mind and the mind construction. They often don't really talk enough about soul connection and how a really good soul connection and good soul power actually almost can break down everything else, because when someone has really good soul power and soul connection, the vibration in the channel is so high that everything else flows. And to me, it's like one of the things about, when we talk about getting to the root of the problem. To me, a lot of the problems and most roots of the problem are actually soul connection. The person is not got good soul connection. So they are trying to fix the external, and they're trying to look at it from, the external things that it's easier for us to see. It's maybe not what's untangible, if that makes sense. Now, of course, we are living in this, maybe 3D reality, moving into 4D reality, and there are certain things that, to, how could you say, survive and thrive in this world, that sometimes we need to do, that are certain aspects that maybe seem physical and maybe mental as we're building that connection up. But one of the biggest signs of real disconnection with the soul is when people don't have good discernment, when their intuition is constantly off, particularly with themselves. I meet people, I've met a lot of healers and therapists through the years who've said to me, I'm not very good myself, but I'm good with other people. And sometimes I challenge that, because I've also been on the other end of people who's, would, tell me what they thought intuitively was going on. And, sometimes they were extremely off, but they believed that they were right. And, intuition to me, and it can be, on some level, it's not always as tangible until, someone is constantly getting evidence. You see evidence over and over again. But even in that, intuition can be a difficult thing to weigh in percentage of how someone is accurate, particularly when you're going, for intuitive advice from someone else. But the reality, it's not important about other people. It's important about you tapping into your inner guidance and building a clear channel for you. But it's knowing the difference between what is your intuition and guiding you, and actually what is the ego or the survival response, or one of the survival archetypes trying to overtake. And I'll give you some examples. So sometimes in coaching sessions, particularly maybe coaching sessions where I've come across a client who I would say is not completely a soul client, and I will explain a bit more of that. And this is not in any shape or form trying to say that someone who's not a soul client of mine is any more valuable and important. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if I have, for example, someone who's booked a session and they may be at a certain stage of their journey, which, for example, there's certain types of client that I feel I am more suited to and more aligned with, and can do my best work and can help them make breakthroughs. And they're often a certain types of client that are at a certain stage of their own awakening, their own journey and their business. And the reason that we click and we align is often that client has found it really hard to get someone that has the skill set and the how could you say alignment to feel aligned like me, to feel that have the same maybe ethics and values, some similar views, and the way I work really suits them. So when they work with me, they get the results, but they feel really comfortable and they trust. And a lot of them get really emotional when they work with me because it's like this, they feel this light bulb moment. They just feel as if, wow, this is just this it's almost it takes it to a magical level. When someone is a client that can help, I can make a big difference, but may not be what I would class soul client. Sometimes it can be like a tug of resistance. It can be a wee bit of a tug of war with egos, right? Because, I maybe where I'm in my journey, I want to take people to a certain level, and I know that I can do that best. If people are not ready to do certain levels of work or they're not at a certain level to see things, or don't even maybe align with the values and the way that I look at the world, there's just not that same alignment. And it depends on what kind of work you're doing. So, it depends how deep you're going. I like to go really, really deep. And some people are still working at a survival level. So they're coming in for help in their business from a survival energy. So the responses are very survival, right? Now, there's a feeling you can really feel there's some sort of the alignment's just not as clear. Right? So soul alignment is about being so in the flow, right? And so aligned in the work that you do that it's very powerful. And you're aligned that you're attracting mostly clients that alignment feels just so easy and so magical that it's energizing, it's empowering, and it's a win-win situation. When we're out of alignment in business, there's quite a lot of things can happen other than us functioning at the egoic level of this, so that can show up in different ways. It can be having to pretend or trying to put on a face that, that everything's all glory when it's not. It can be, trying to pretend you're someone that you're not, trying to fit into a box, but you're not. And I'll give you an example. So sometimes I meet people who want to be a certain archetype and they'll actually play the game. Anyone who doesn't really fully understand architects and not studied to a certain degree might think they are a certain type of archetype, but actually that's the archetype, they're playing the role. But at their core, there is something else going on, right? And that's one example. And another example is when, I mentioned already, when someone is so in the survival response that they're really easily triggered. They take personal offense when you're trying to help them. You're trying to be objective. Because if you're a business coach and a business mentor, like what I am, or a marketing mentor, I approach it that I don't just go in from a coaching. If I can go in and save a client like in one session, something that might take them 10 hours to normally get by normal just asking questions because they don't see things. If I can explain something and say, look, if you look at it from this perspective, it can shift the reality quite quickly. And that's why my sessions are not just coaching, they're mentoring sessions. And it helps them see things completely different because what I'm doing is bringing my experience to the table and things that they don't understand and maybe not aware of. Because I don't want them to have to go in and spend tens of thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of hours doing things in their business and not really getting the rewards, right? Because I don't want them to have to do the long journey and all the mistakes that I made. That's the whole point. I became a business and a coach. So one of the things that if you're getting constantly jarred and triggered in your business, right, you obviously have a lot of wounding to clear, right? There's things clearing, but it also can be your perspective of things, how you're seeing things. Of course, the mind has to come in there, because there's lots of things that can keep people stuck in a business. And one of the things that sometimes I see, and I mentioned this recently, and there was a reason why, because it's showing up in lots of people, lots of clients and students that I know, is because a lot of people today don't have time for hobbies and therapy, or have spent a lifetime, maybe, particularly you see this a lot with women of a certain age, particularly in the era that I've lived in, and maybe clients that I have are maybe 5, 10, 15 years older than me. So I'm 54, to give you an idea. And we see an era where women, often made a lot of sacrifices for their family, and maybe had hardly any time for themselves. And when they start going on this spiritual journey and their spiritual business, they're not just looking at it as a business, they're looking at it as a vocation, a purpose, but also there is a bit of therapy and healing in it. And sometimes what can happen is that it's easy to treat your business as a form of therapy and do things in your business just for a therapeutic perspective, and lose all sight why you're not making any money. And that can lead to all sorts of problems. Also, one of the biggest things I also see is how money beliefs and how we look at money and how we see money in relation to business beliefs and ideas around money and business and all sorts of things that are related to that can stop you growing your business. So, if you're treating your business if you are someone that is treating your business like a bargain basement hobby, you're often going to attract bargain basement clients. That's the reality. So it's important to relook and say, well, what is really going on with my money beliefs? Am I someone that is always in scarcity? And also there can be the opposite of that, but sometimes the opposite can actually contradict itself within someone, and it's the sense of entitlement. So that's where there's a sense of entitlement, particularly people who want the freebies all the time, or who just want to pay the lowest. It's almost the and the clients I don't, obviously most of us don't really want to work with that type of client. But for example, I can give out freebies, and sometimes things go wrong with your automation things, but sometimes you can get people who are very, very demanding energy, and who get really upset if you're not doing this, this, and this, and even when they've not paid for something, right? And it's coming from this real energy of entitlement, and often there is other things going on, but also this, again, survival response. Like, they're so desperate and they're just grabbing onto something. And if they don't get it the way that they want it right away, it's almost like this sense of urgency. And there's also sometimes a sense of trying to control or manipulate you. I got that quite a lot of those experiences interesting many years ago in a group I had. I found it really strange because the group was supposed to be for empaths and sensitives, and there was a lot of people in the group. Of course, I mean, I still have some of these as clients or students or people that follow me and support me. But there was also a high level in that group of very demanding and very manipulative for people who were saying they were highly empathic and highly sensitive. There was also a lot of kind of neuroticism, and there was some narcissistic behavior, right? So that's a whole other story. But there was elements of this victim energy and entitlement that someone else should help them, and it was very feel sorry for me, but wanted, for example, in their own businesses or their own life, to be able to charge or to be able to do things and to make money, but were almost trying to constantly psychologically manipulate me to constantly give more and more for free, even though I gave a plethora of stuff for free. And when you're attracting those situations, it's really, really important to say, now, what's going on here? So one of the biggest things was I never, ever, ever had a problem giving, right? So the giving, and I didn't give just to receive, because sometimes when you're giving just to receive, that's not coming from a complete heartfelt energy. If you're giving to you're expecting something back, there's an attachment to it. But when you're giving and you genuinely want to help others, that's coming from a certain energy. And of course, in business, there's a certain amount of giving. That is also used as in a psychological marketing tactic to give people, to help them understand, of course. But what I mean is, if you are not really want to give, you're only giving because you think that it's going to bring you back, there is something going on energetically there. It's not coming from an open heart, right? You're not soul aligned. You're coming again from the survival response. You're only doing it because you think that you're going to get something out of it. So the energy is just not as clear and is not as open. So there's lots of things that can interfere with us, that can pull us off track. But to be soul aligned starts with the self, and to attract a soul aligned client, right? A client that you're going to make the most difference, and the people that are going to invest and find it easy to invest in you. When you're constantly attracting clients who don't find it easy to invest, and what I mean by that, either have mental issues about investing, or just don't have the money, or have struggles psychologically around investing in their business, right? And at that point, they're not your client. Of course, there's some of those are soul client. Of course, some of these people, through some of the things that you might teach, you might educate them, they then might become your soul client. But if you have constantly attracted an audience that are always making excuses but want to move forward but are not prepared to do certain things, or they're not at a certain level of understanding in their consciousness, or have not got to that point, at that point they're not aligned. And it's really, really important. So, it's like, I have different sides to my business, and some of that aspects of the business, it's going to get less and less. Some of it will just going to move into complete automation, and it will be part of always a way for me to make money, but it's not going to be where I'm going to be doing my one-to-one work and my coaching programs, right? It's not going to be where I'm going to be moving forward. And I have lots of clients and students who are ideal clients and have been ideal clients, for certain types of work. But as I move forward in my business, that does not mean that they equate to soul clients. Because if I've been doing, for example, if I've been doing my work 10, 20, 30 years, and I'm still teaching some things at a basic level, and the easiest way to explain it is, so a lot of healers start off with Reiki. That's one of the most fundamental basic, it's a basic healing modality, right? So it's one of what most people start on when they start out their spiritual journey, just like meditation. Lots of people start with traditional type meditation or mindfulness now, or yoga, and things like Reiki. And that's the start of the spiritual journey often, right? And there'll be some people that stay, and that's, it's not nothing or less, or someone that can be a really powerful way to build a business, because you're going to get more people at the beginning level, or who want to stay in that level. And there'll always be people who want to move. And there's other people who are just quite content where they are, right? But if I start my business at that level, and I'm going, and I'm on that journey for 30 years, I could still be offering that level, but I have other clients that are at that level. So where am I more aligned? I was going to be more aligned here. because I know that these clients may not understand or even have the same views I have. This, particularly if my views have changed a lot from then. And that's the easiest way to understand. And it's not about saying that someone is any less. For example, I'm starting a new podcast. I'll be sharing more about that over the next few months. But I have a new podcast starting in 2024. And there is a specific audience that I really want to bring most of in this session. And it's not about in any shape or form trying to say that other therapists and healers that I know are not, how could you say, they're not any less if they're not in alignment with that. That's not what it's about. But my purpose, my mission is my unique mission with a unique message. And that unique message that I want to really get across, the most powerful aspect I want to get across, part of that, I'm using this podcast as a way to get certain information and wake-up points for also healers, therapists, and coaches. So I have to bring in people with a certain level of understanding or perspective who can articulate some of these subjects well, who are very confident, who have an understanding of certain key topics and think like what I do. And I want to bring in different people for different reasons, but there is certain people that I'm very specific that I want to, and there is reasons, because it's about alignment in not just where I am, but where my business and my mission is going. And if you cannot see where your business is going and you know your soul, where your soul is calling you to, it's very easy to get pulled back down working with people that you're no longer aligned with, or doing work that you're no longer aligned with. And one of the biggest shifts is that so many in the spiritual community, we are shifting. We're shifting dramatically. And to expand and grow and to get and align your soul, you have to be able to let go of what no longer works. And that actually also might mean letting go of the ideal client that you had in mind before, or the soul client. It may be letting go of certain types of work, and even having the strength to let go of, people that you've worked with for years, because they may not be ready to move and make that shift up. They may be ready in 6 months, they may be ready in a year, but if they are not ready at the moment and they're no longer aligned with your message, you cannot keep trying to market to them and try and bend and be like an acrobat to, or like a pretzel, what do they call that when you try and shape yourself into a pretzel? For them, that's not alignment. It's like many empaths, and I understand this completely, and it's something I have to be really energetically aware of. Many empaths, particularly I remember having a session that really opens my mind many years ago. It made me look at myself completely in a different way. And it was when I learned that I was what was classed as an unruly empath. Now, I've learned to be less unruly, but my empathic abilities were so all over the place. This spiritual teacher, and she was a psychic and a medium and things like that, had explained to me that my energy was just out of control. It was because it was so sensitive to everything. It was so empathic. I could sense so much thing. It was obviously information overload, but I hadn't learned to utilize that gift and direct all of that gift in its correct form. Now, at the time she says to me I could be a transfigural, I think that's how you pronounce it, it's a transfiguralist medium, which freaked me out, right? And you don't know what that is, you can look it up. But basically, it really did freak me out. And I said, no, definitely not. I'm not interested in that. So, but what she was trying to explain was that my energy was so pliable. My psychic gifts could really pick up on so many things about people and whatever, but it could be used in a different way. But what she was putting out was just didn't, I don't think would ever, just didn't, at a soul level, did not interest in me. But I've learned now, as the more and more I've honoured my gifts and worked on it, worked on myself, that these gifts come through naturally in the way that I work. So, but at certain stages in my journey, I wasn't ready for that, right? I couldn't. And so I have to be very aware that as an empath, empaths can often lower their vibration to align with someone else. And in your work, if you're moving leaps and bounds, but you are still attracting people down here, well, guess what happens? If you're spending all your time with clients that you don't feel aligned with, that pulls your energy down, pulls your vibration down, and stops your soul expanding, and you really step into your power. So you have to move up. Now, there's also sometimes where people are trying to get from point A to point Z, and they're jumping. It's like, again, people come into the spiritual community and they think that, they've done a 2-day course or a year's course, and they suddenly think they're a master and an expert in something, and then they're putting themselves out for everybody and anyone, and they don't understand that they, again, have a certain types of client, and there's certain people that are going to resonate, and and often it's people that are that they're maybe a few years ahead of. It's not going to be someone that is 10, 20 years ahead of them. I have invested in so many programs, and I've learned now, get out, use my intuition, don't just go what people are saying. And so many people in the spiritual community tell me this is the most high end, or this is the most evolved healing. And when you get into it, it's not at all. It's basic stuff they think it is because they're only at that level. They're still early in their journey, or they really haven't really done a lot of things and they're not really aware of a lot of other things. So it's always individual. It's all about us really understanding who we are here best to serve. So a soul aligned business is to start with us knowing yourself, having a deep connection with yourself, and getting out of the ego and not taking things personally. If you are taking things personally, if someone does not book with you or doesn't sign up for something, it's your wounding. And that's something, we can work on. I do archetypal and inner child support sessions to help. So this is something, if you need help with it, get in touch. If you need help to really pivot forward and become more soul aligned in your business, I have a 3-session now mini package. Usually, to be honest, most sessions used to be for me was a larger program, but at the moment we're in November 2023. I've just decided to extend an offer that I've had, and it's just for certain reasons because I'm making lots of changes, and there's certain things my new programs won't be coming out till 2024. So if you want to a wee bit of a spiritual kickstart, that's what I'm advertising it as, a spiritual kickstart, to really kickstart you back in alignment with yourself and your business. I have a special offer on it. It's a package of 3 1-to-1 sessions where we look at aspects of you, your business and your marketing, and tailor it to your needs, of course, to help you start moving you forward. Because one of the biggest things that I know at the moment is lots of us have made such big shift over the last 3, 4, 5 years that some of the work that we used to do just does not feel aligned at all. And how, we're working and how we're going to work is very different. And this is why it's so important to be able to get some support and help and, some objectivity. I need to get help to be objective. I I hire in help to get objective. I get help to look at things from a different perspective, because often we're so close to the situation. We can be spiritually guided, but particularly with strategies and things in our business, there's often so many things to consider that we don't think, that we're not actually looking at a business from fresh eyes. And we can be looking at it in an old way of looking at things, or we can be just looking at it as just, well, I feel like doing this is what I'm going to do today, but is it actually bringing the results? Is it building connection with your audience? Or is it actually just wasting their time? This is so important for us all to relook at, and, so that we can become more a soul line for our clients, that we are giving them what they really want and need. Okay. Have a wonderful day. Please follow, like, subscribe, and share if you found this beneficial, and make sure that you add any comments into the section below. Bye-bye for now.